ourselves. Let's connect with each other. Know your name, your field, and you can share your LinkedIn page or something for other people to connect with you. Thank you. So while I wait for other people to drop their message on the chat box, I would like to talk to you about Bincom Dev Center. Bincom Dev Center is a multi-location technology talent development and solution platform. And we have our location at different places, such as the Lagos, that's the Yaba location, Ibadan, Oyo State, Kano State, Kaduna State, Ijebu-Igbo, that is their Ogun State, Warri, Delta State, and also in United Kingdom. And Bincom Dev Center focuses on 3 key pillars, which is building tech talent. Thank you. Building tech talent, which focuses on Bincom Academy, Bincom Tech Internship, Bincom Tech Apprenticeship, Bincom Global Tech Program, and also enhancing tech talent, which is the Bincom Tech Network, Lightspace, Emigrate Tech Visa, Bincom Mentoring Platform, Bincom Tech Career Coaching, and also building startup, which is Labs by Bincom. I'd like to broaden the focus of Bincom Dev Center, which is 1, the Bincom Academy. Bincom Academy utilizes the Montessori approaches in training participants in basic skills needed for the modern technology ecosystem. 2 is the Bincom Tech Internship. It is designed to enable people to intermediate skills level, gain mastery and expertise over a good period of time. 3rd one is Bincom Tech Apprenticeship. Industrial attachment at various skills levels to gain experience on the job training. Bincom Tech Network, geared at giving back at the community and building the tech ecosystem. They focus on informing and exposing the youth to the current technology trends and how to prepare the future in technology. Also, we have a Lightspace, which provides an helpful workspace intended to encourage collaboration and drive innovations in the startup ecosystem. We have spaces that is created and designed for various events like seminars, conferences, and get-together. Also, we have the Bincom Global Tech Program. Is your solution to launch your tech career globally. It is a 1 to 2 year program. Focus on 3 key pillars: learn skills, gain experience, and gain exposure. We also have our Emigrate Tech Visa. It helps you become globally attractive, tech profile or tech-enabled business, and it is your tech-enabled pathway to relocation and settlement in countries like UK, USA, Canada, France, and many more. We also have our Bincom Mentoring Platform. It is structured mentoring solution to help mentors add values to mentees for the purpose of building globally attractive techies. Also, we have our Labs by Bincom. It is a 3 to 6 month pre-incubator program that brings together participants to build a digital technology product which would be used for real-life users. Last one, we have our Bincom Tech Career Coaching. It helps individuals to land their next role faster by offering a combination of coaching relevant on the job experience, career referencing, introduction to tech recruiters, and holding through applications and interview process, and much more. Thank you. So I would like to hand over, before I hand over to the host, I would like to introduce our facilitator for the event. I welcome the facilitator for the event. Welcome to our PHP Meetup. So I would like to hand over to the host of the event, Oladimeji.
Okay,
hello.
Thank you very much. Hello. Thank you very much, Adigun. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for enlightening us about the organization. So I would like to, I'm actually not the host, so I'd like to welcome the host, who is Antonia Ozemoya.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so I will just talk briefly about this event. The Bincom PHP Meetup is a community development initiative that seeks to inform the young and the young at heart of various opportunities and steps, that are abound in the field of programming, especially in the Nigerian environment. This event initiative, will help prospective participants to understand their core niche in the ever-growing world of programming. And this event is proudly sponsored by Bincom Dev Center. I believe I've discussed, I've shed more light on Bincom Dev Center and the services they offer. So we'll be talking about building APIs with PHP today. And we have two guest speakers. We have the external speaker and we have the internal speaker. Our internal speaker is Ogechi Okate Success, is a full stack developer and an intern at Bincom Dev Center with over 2 years of experience in building dynamic and responsive web applications, and also is a passionate full stack developer. He holds a degree in computer science from the Ignatius Ajuru University, Port Harcourt, Nigeria, and is currently based in Abakaliki. His expertise spans across front-end development with HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, React, and Next.js. And on the back end, he relies on PHP, Laravel, and MySQL, as well as WordPress, to create robust and scalable solutions. Despite being an intern, Ogechi has had privilege of leading multiple projects, driving innovation, and overcoming complex challenges to deliver exceptional results. So I would like to introduce our external speaker. Let me confirm if he's on board. Yes, he is. So our external speaker for today is Ayamba Victor Ndoma. He's a skilled mechatronics engineer with a passion for data science, web development, and artificial intelligence. He graduated from the prestigious Federal University of Technology, Minna, where he gained a strong foundation in engineering principles and hands-on technical expertise. Throughout his career, Victor has consistently demonstrated his ability to bridge the gap between technical complexity and practical application, making significant contributions across various research areas. Victor's journey in the tech industry began as a research assistant at Infinite Web Technology Consult, where he combined his rigorous research skills with his talent for web development. He played a key role in the design, development, and maintenance of web applications, utilizing his proficiency in PHP and Laravel framework. His work was characterized by a deep understanding of user needs and a commitment to delivering robust, scalable solutions. As a Python with data science tutor at Veritas University under the IGS project funded by the Ministry of Education and World Bank, Victor developed and delivered a comprehensive curriculum. The curriculum introduced trainees to Python training, Python programming, and data visualization. His teaching covered not only the essentials of Python, but also delved into the use of advanced libraries such as Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn, Plotly, and Dash. This role highlighted his ability to simplify complex concepts and inspire a new generation of data scientists. Victor's research experience extends to the application of artificial intelligence in aquaculture, where he conducted systematic studies as a research assistant for the Artificial Intelligence for Women in Aquaculture Initiative, a research firm in Summit University Offa, spearheaded by Professor Musa Aibinu. His work has been instrumental in assessing the adoption of AI techniques in sub-Saharan Africa's aquaculture sector. Moreover, Victor has held leadership roles, including serving as the center head and technical instructor at Marion IT Limited in Minna, Nigeria. There, he facilitated robotics and coding classes, guiding students through the development of innovative projects using microcontrollers and Arduino boards. His commitment to education and mentorship has empowered students to turn their ideas into reality. Victor's portfolio of executed projects is impressive, showcasing his versatility and innovation. Notable projects include the development of a disease prediction system, an AI-based water quality prediction system for aquaculture farms, a bursary system for universities, CO2 emission monitoring system, and so on and so forth. These projects not only demonstrate his technical acumen, but also his ability to address real-world challenges through technology. In his free time, he enjoys engaging in community service, having taught sciences at High WTC Extramurals. His commitment to lifelong learning and community development continues to inspire those around him. Victor is currently exploring opportunities to leverage his skills in innovative projects that make a difference. That's a wonderful profile. Mr. Victor, you are welcome, sir. We're glad to have you in our midst. Can you hear me, sir?
Good evening and thank you. Hello, can you hear me, ma?
I can hear you now, sir. You're welcome.
Good evening. Thank you.
So, moving forward, I would like to Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, moving forward, I would like to introduce our first speaker today, person of Mr. Ayamba Victor. You can have the floor, sir. You're welcome, sir.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, so
hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, Antonia, can you hear me?
Okay, Chi, I can hear you.
Okay. I think that is kind of this thing. I'm the first speaker. I think Mr. Victor will come later after my own presentation.
Oh, sorry for the
Yes.
mix-up. Sir Victor, you can kindly hold on, sir. Okay, Chi. Welcome. Let's have you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. Victor Ayamba. Okay, my name is Ogechakachi Success. Just as the topic states, today we'll be looking at how to build API, how to build web applications using API. So I have a slide for this. Let me quickly share my screen. Please, can you enable screen sharing? Hello, please, can you enable screen sharing? Okay, I think I'm having issues sharing my screen. So let's quickly continue with what I have, then till when it will be sorted out. Hope that is okay. Antonia,
Yes,
is
you
that
can
okay?
go ahead. Let's confirm if they can hear us. Ira, please, can you hear us? Or who is
Yeah,
the
we
host?
can. I can hear you.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Okay, today we'll be looking at what is API. API, Application Programming Interface, popularly known as API. It's known as Application Programming Interface. So what is API? What I'll be doing today is a kind of a background of what Mr. Victor will be coming to do. I don't know if people get, I will lay the background of what Mr. Victor is going to do. So you just have to pay attention and follow and grab something, because whatever thing you miss out here, you find it difficult to understand when Mr. Victor Ayamba comes up. So just try to understand the basics. What I'm doing now is the basics of what API is. So what is API? API is a set of rules and protocols that allow one software application to interact with another application. That is, now you have application 1, you have application 2. These are two different applications, and these two applications cannot interact to each other without API. So you can build two applications separately, independently. But how do you interact with these two applications? Comes in API. So the APIs will help you to interact with these two applications. API gives you the platform whereby you can interact with your application 1, application 2, that is hosted on two different platforms altogether. It defines the methods and data formats that application can be used to request and exchange information. API serves as intermediaries between two softwares to communicate with each other in an efficient and structured way. That is just a quick view of what API is. That is just what API is, a quick view of what API is. So moving forward, we would like to look at the types of API. No, we have so many APIs out there, but the most popular ones we use regularly are the web APIs, library and framework APIs, operating system APIs, and hardware APIs. But at the course of this workshop today, our major focus will be on web APIs. Our major focus will be on web API, because we all know that PHP is a programming language that is built specifically for web applications. So our major focus today will be on web APIs. But these other ones, they are still APIs, but to look at what web APIs is. Now, a simple analogy of what API is. Now, imagine you are in a restaurant, a food ordering restaurant, something like that. You are in a restaurant, right? Now, in the restaurant, you have the waiter, right? So in the restaurant, the waiter in the restaurant is the API, because you that is coming in as a customer, you can't just come into a restaurant, then you walk straight to the kitchen to request for a food. It's not done that way. You need to interface with the waiter first. Then the waiter will take your order, then sends to the kitchen to get your food. So the waiter is the API. You tell the waiter what you want. Now, the process of you telling the waiter what you want, that process is called request. That is your request. You are sending in your request through the waiter that this is what I want. And the waiter communicates your order to the kitchen. The kitchen is the application. The waiter is the API. Your request, what you want to buy or what you want to eat is your request. And the way to communicate this your request, this your order to the kitchen, which is serving as the application. Now the kitchen then prepares your food. Now the process of the kitchen preparing your food is the response. The response you get, is the process of the kitchen preparing your food. That is the response. And the waiter brings it back to you. The waiter now brings back the response gotten from the kitchen, which is the application, to you, that is the customer. That is just how API works. That is how API works. So let's look at a key points about API. Now, I made mention that API, they serve as intermediary. Now, API acts as a middleman, facilitating communication between different software components. We are looking at key points about APIs. One, it serves as an intermediary. How does API do this? API acts as a middleman. It sits as a middleman, facilitating communication between different software components. Just okay. Now, API acts as intermediary. API acts as a middleman, facilitating the communication between different software components. Now, just like the analogy I used above, now you walk into a restaurant, you interface with the waiter, which is the API. Now, at that point in time, if the waiter is standing as a middleman between the kitchen, which is the application, and you, that is the customer, that is requesting the food. That is how API, that is one key point about API. They serve as intermediary. Two, API sets rules and protocols. Okay. So, confirm, can you see my screen? Can you see my face?
I can see your face. If it's just
Okay.
me, but it's black.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
we don't have light currently, so the place I am is kind of dark. So, and I can't go outside now because of the noise. So I don't know if it's manageable this way. Should I continue?
Yeah, you can go on.
Okay. That's fine.
You can try sharing your screen as well.
Okay. So the rules, I will do that later. The rules and protocols. So one key point about API is they set the rules and protocols. Now they define the specific format and the structure of request and response. API set the rules and protocols. How two applications can communicate to each other. You know, they can't just communicate without rules and protocols. There are rules and protocols online. So it's the APIs that sets these rules and protocols. Make sure that all of these are being in check before any communication can be between two applications. So it's the API that does that. Now, API also does data exchange. APIs allow application to share information and functionalities. Now, data exchange. API allows applications to share information and functionalities. You can access a particular endpoint. To get data from that particular system. Now, maybe I have a list of students. I have an application built for student management system, right? So if I want to access this software using software A, what I need to do is I need to use API to access the software A that has the list of students. Now, with that, I can be able to access all the students in this order in this other application, provided that the rules and the protocols are being observed. That will be a data exchange. Also, API, one key point about API is what? Abstraction. Now, they hide the complex internal workings of an application, providing a simpler interface for developer. Now, what API is that? Like, if you want to implement a payment gateway, you're not going to start writing all the code yourself. All you need to do is just for you to do some simple configurations, know the endpoints you want to access, or the endpoints you want to access, and implement your payment gateway without going through so many things, without going through so many processes. All you just need to do is access the endpoint you want to access, access it using your API, and that is just it. So, just as I said earlier, I said we'll be looking at what web APIs is. So we'll be looking at what web APIs is. That's the main focus of today's event, web APIs. So what is web APIs? These are the most common allowing web-based systems to interact, e.g., a website requesting data from a server. Right? Example of that web APIs is your RESTful API. Example of a web API is RESTful API. Now, this RESTful API, it makes use of HTTP requests to access and manipulate data. What is data manipulation? You can add data, you can delete data, you can update data, and you can view the details of a particular data. That is data manipulations. So this RESTful API, it uses HTTP requests to access and manipulate data. An example of HTTP requests, we have get, we have post, we have put, and we have delete. Now the get is when you are trying to access a data, you are getting something from the server. You want to retrieve some information. You want to retrieve some data from the server. You make use of get. When setting your this thing, you make use of get request. Then if you are sending something from application 1 to application 2, you have to specify post. You make use of post in your request. Your post will be post request, not get request. Get is getting something. Post is sending something. So if you want to get something from the database, you use get request. If you want to send, you use post request. Remember, these are RESTful APIs, and RESTful APIs makes use of HTTP request. These are requests. So we have the get, the post, the put, that is to update. You have retrieved a particular data and you want to update that particular data. Maybe you have retrieved the names of students and you want to update a particular record. What you need to use is the put request. So you use the put request to update a particular record that you have retrieved already from the database. So if you want to delete a particular record from the database, all you have to do is you use your delete request. So we have 4 main HTTP requests of RESTful APIs: the get, the post, the put, and the delete. These are the 4 most used HTTP requests when it comes to RESTful API. Okay, that's all for the introduction of what API is. So let me quickly share my screen so that I will illustrate what I just did now. Let's just walk through and see how this thing are being done. So Please, can you confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. So I already have a project, a Laravel project that we use for this particular workshop. So this is a Laravel project that I've already set up for this particular project. So what we'll be doing in this project, what we'll be looking at is how to use get and post RESTful API request. So that's what we'll be looking at in this particular session, and that is what we use to work. So let me serve this application. I'm using my local host for this illustration. So everything will be done locally offline in my machine. So let me serve my application. Sorry, we cannot be able to go through the installation of Laravel. We can't do that. We can't go through the installation of Laravel, but to install Laravel is very easy. Laravel is very easy to install. You can just check out the documentation, Laravel documentation online. You can see how to install Laravel. It's very easy to install. So after installing your Laravel, all you need to do is just open your Laravel project in any of your favorite terminal. So me, I'm using Hi-Fi. So to start your Laravel project, all you have to do is do PHP artisan serve. This will serve your project. So my project is running at localhost 8000. Okay, so that's the project. So looking at this project, I have all products, right? All products, and I have the product ID, the product name, the price, and description, right? So this information is coming from a particular application. It's coming from the database. It's coming from the database. I retrieve this information from the database using the get HTTP request. Remember I said we use get HTTP request when we want to retrieve data from the server. So now let's walk through to see how we can do that, how we can achieve this. Okay, Laravel comes with what we call blade template. So it means that in your Laravel application, you can strictly do your backend, write your backend language, your backend logic without bothering yourself.
Hello.
Front. Hello?
So I think we can only see your browser. We can't see.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, sorry for that. How about now?
Yes, I can see the code base.
Okay. So I said earlier that Laravel has what we call blade template. Now, what does that blade template help you to do? It helps you to write your front end code like HTML, CSS, and all of that. So it means Laravel is a PHP framework, a full-fledged framework. That is, you can write both your back end and your front end using a single application instead of having instead of having only the back end language codes. You can equally write your back end codes and your front end codes. So let me quickly rush through the structure of Laravel so that in case you want to practice this, you can actually do it. So this is your Laravel application. This is how your Laravel application comes when you install your Laravel application. This is how it comes. So in your app, you have what we call HTTP, the models and the providers. So in your HTTP, you have your controller. Then you can create your resources also in your HTTP, right? But the major thing is this your controller. So inside your controller, I created this folder called API because this is where I want to write my API files. This is where I want to save my API files. So that's why I named this particular file APIs. But when you set up your Laravel project, you will not see this. You only see controller, but you can create this yourself. So inside your APIs, inside the API folder, I have my product controller, student controller, and client controllers. So these are the folders, these are the controllers that we'll be looking at the course of this class, at the course of this workshop. These are the controllers we'll be looking at. Then this is for the back end. Then you have your models where I have my products, my students, and my users. Then for the front end, where you can access your front end, where the users can see what is actually happening, is in this place called the resources. So in your resources, you have your CSS, you have your JS, and also you have your views, right? So inside your views is where you write your blade. That is where you write your front end codes. Your front end codes, just like your HTML and CSS. If you check what I have here, it's just regular HTML and CSS. This is your normal HTML structure. So Laravel gives you the platform to do this. So also we have what we call routes. Now in the routes, when you clone your project, your Laravel project, now you have API.php, console.php, web.php. Now, you write your route based on the kind of application you are building. If you are building strictly API application, just as the one we are doing today, you don't have business with this console. You don't have business with this web.php. Your business is just in this API.php. This is the place you write your API route. This is the place you define your API route, is in this place, your API.php. So that is that. Then current version of Laravel. I think it doesn't come with this API. You have to write a particular this into, what is it called now, to bring it up. Okay, so this is your API.php. Remember I said if you are building strictly a backend, if you're writing strictly backend codes, you don't have business with your console and your web.php. Your web.php returns your front end, your front end and this thing pages, like your normal regular HTML views. It returns the views, right? But the API, you have to access your API. This one now, this is the place you define your APIs. This is the place you define the route of your APIs. So you have to access this. You can test this using Postman, but at this session, we are not going to look at how we will not be using a Postman to test our application. We will not be using API to test our endpoints. We will not use Postman to test our endpoints. When Mr. Victor comes up, he will walk people through that, how to use Postman to test your API endpoints. So for this session, I'll be making use of my views. Remember, I said that Laravel gives you the platform where you can write your back end and your front end. So we'll be using these two routes. We'll be using our API.php and our web.php. We'll be using our API.php and our web.php to test our GET and our POST RESTful API requests. So first of all, This is a client controller. I named this. You can name it anything, but I decided to name it a client controller. So what does this client controller does? Now I have a function. Okay, this class client controller extends controller. This extends to the parent controller, which is this other controller, right? This other controller here. So every other controller extends to this other controller. So, and inside this controller, I have a function called add form. So this add form returns my form if I want to add, like if I want to add a record to the database, I need a form. I need a form to add record to the database. Since I'm not using Postman, to test my API, but I can still test my APIs using my front end, using my view. I can still do that using my view. So all I have to do is create another route called web.php. Inside my web.php, this is where I return all the views that I want to test my API with. So instead of testing with Postman, I decided to test using my view. So this also will lead you to write some JavaScript codes that will help you to do this. So in this session, we'll be using Axios. We'll be using Axios to communicate with our API.php. We'll be using Axios to test our API, to test our endpoints. So I have my client controller. So this place, I set a data. This is an empty array. Then I pass in title, which is add product. Then this place, I'm returning the view. The view I'm returning is add product, and I'm returning this view with the data, which is this empty array I have passed here. So every other array I pass here, I can be able to access it in my view. So this is the view. This is the name of the view, and which is this. Remember, I said your API has view. Your Laravel has a view folder. Then your view folder renders your normal HTML DC pages. Does that for you. So I can create my page here. This page, this is the page I want to access. Whenever I access this function, I want to return this particular view. And how do I do that? I make use of my web.php route. Now, this is where I'm returning. This is the API. This is the route that is returning that particular. That is returning the view. So this is the function. Whenever I hit this class, it's going to the listen. It's returning this particular view, which is the add product. So now this is the add product. This is what I have in the add product. It's just your normal regular HTML structure, nothing special. There's nothing special about it. The only thing that is special here, the only thing that is special here is my link to Axios, because I'm using CDN. I'm using CDN for this particular practice. I'm using CDN for it, and I don't have Axios installed in the project. So what I have to copy the link of Axios, then paste in my header. With this, I can access using Axios. So that is that. So here I have this is my form. Then my form has an ID called product form. Hello, please, can you confirm if you can still hear me? Antonia, please,
Yes,
can you
I
confirm
can
if
hear
you can
you.
still hear me? Okay,
Yes.
so in my
you.
form, in my phone, I have an ID called product form. This ID, I'll be accessing this ID in my JavaScript. Remember all of this. The reason I'm having this is because I want to use JavaScript to access my phone. Normally, I'm not meant to do this if I'm to use Postman or any other API testing platform. I'm not meant to do this. Instead, I will specify my get and my method, all of that. I need to specify all of that. But since I'm using JavaScript for this, I just have to pass this ID. Then this ID, I will access it in my JavaScript. So this is your normal input. Your normal input, the name, the price, and description of the product. Then this is my normal submit button. Then down here, I have this div with the ID of response message. This is where I'll be displaying my response, whether it's successful or not. If there is any error, this is where all of this will be displaying. Is in this place. So this is my JavaScript. Where this is my JavaScript. So this is how you link your JavaScript in your Laravel. This is how you do that. This is it. So the name of the JavaScript file is addProduct.js. Although you can still have all your particular this thing, but I decided just because of this thing, I just decided to more. So access this page, all you have to do, remember you have your web.php, your rat, which is this. So all I have to do is to access this. All I have to do is to access form. To access form. Remember, I'm using namerat. So if I access form, I'll be able to access this particular page. So let's access form. So this is the page. This is a normal HTML page. I didn't start anything. We are not looking at styling. What we are looking at. Please confirm if you can see my screen. My browser.
No, it's still your yes.
Wow. Okay. Please confirm if you can see it now. Is it visible now?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Okay. So this is the route. This is the name of the route in my web.php. All I have to do is type in the name of the route. You know, when you are setting your route, you can use what to call name route. I use name route. So in my web.php, all I have to do is access the name of the route here, and that returns the page. That returns the page I have already defined in the function that whenever I access this particular route, display a particular view for me. So, and the name of the route is form. So this is the form we'll be using to test our post request. Remember, by right, we're meant to use Postman to do this, but I'm not using Postman. So since I'm not using Postman, I'm using my web.php, returning a particular form in my web browser. So to do that, now let me test on product one. It's a product one 20 test product. Now let me submit. So now I say product created successfully, right? Product created successfully. So let's look at the API that is responsible for this, the endpoint that is responsible for this. So so remember, in our client controller, we are returning that returns this view, which is the HTML form, right? Now, in our API, we have product controller. So it's in this product controller where we write our logic to add a product to a database. Remember, we say we use post when we want to send data to the database or to a server. We use post for that. So let's walk through the code. So in my product controller, I have a function which is called store. And the store, I have my request and my $sign request, right? So I'm using validator to validate, to set rules for my form. That is the entries, the data that the values or the information that the user will be entering in the front end. I'm using this validator to set the rules to make sure that all of these are being checked before that action takes place, right? Which is this session. That is all about this session, setting rules. Like here, I said that the name must be required and it must be a string. The maximum of that string shouldn't exceed more than 255. So anything more than this, and this is actually big, but you can do all of this. Then I have my description, that the description of the product is required. You must add the description of the product. Without adding the description of the product, the form will not, you can't submit the form. Then the price, I say is required and it must be an integer. That is all about this particular code here. Then if this validation, if it fails, that is what we are taking here. If it fails, return this response. Remember, in API, we are not returning a view, right? You are not returning a view. What you are returning is a response, a JSON response. Unlike your web.php, in your web.php, in this other route, in your route, your web.php, you are returning a particular view. You are returning a particular view, right? But in this other place, you're not returning a view. In your API, you don't return view. What you return is a response. Just like what you have here, this function returns the view. That is the add form page. The add form page where you can enter those information, then add your product. Check here, we are returning a view, which is this return view. And this is the name of the view we want to return. This is the name of the page, which is this page. But in product controller, which is where we are writing an API, we don't return page, rather we return response. And that response comes in JSON format. This is what we call a JSON format. This is how a JSON format is, your message and your error. So if this validation phase, if there is any error from the user entering the data, then return this JSON response. This is the data you are returning, and this is the response. Now you have your message, say all fields are required. I just set this message that all fields are required. In case the user enters this, then forget to enter this, it will throw this error that all fields are required. So this is your JSON response. Then access the message also. So I'm returning the message here also. This is to get the message for the validator. This is where the message now is. So that is that. Then if this does not fail, all we have to do is to create the product. So this is how you create your product in PHP. This is how you create your list in PHP. Now I say $product. This is the name of the model. This is the name of the model that I want to create. I want to create this. So in order for me to create this inside this product, I have to call the model, the name of the model, then pass this function. Yeah, this create function. Yeah, this is PHP create function. So I use this create to do that. I'm passing the name, description, and the price. So this is the name and the database. Why this is the name coming from your form. You know, your form, you have, when you are setting up your form for any post request, or if you want to set up your form, if you want to send information using your form, there is a particular attribute called name attribute. So you have to access your name attribute using your request, and that is how we have our request here. So with this parameter information coming from your phone. So for you to access it, you have to do dollars and request for your name, which is the name of the name of the field you want to access. The same thing here, the same thing here. So after that, I have to return the response. Remember, in API, we return response, we don't return page, we return response. So since this is successful, I have to return this JSON data. This data I'm returning here is message, and I'm returning the data also. Then if it's successful, I say product created successfully. That is why we have this thing there, that success message, product created successfully. When I submitted that form, then this is our data. Then I'm using product resource. So you don't have to bother yourself about this one at this stage. You don't have to bother yourself. Then this is the status code. This status code, if it's successful, we are returning 200. 200 is successful. So that is how we are returning this here. So that is that. This is how with this you can send data to the front end. I know you can do more to this. You can do more to this, but this is just the basic. This is just the basic. You can do a lot of check, you can do a lot of things when you want to do this, but this is just kind of a background. This is just a basic on how you can do this using your Laravel. This is just the basic on how to do this. First of all, you do your check. If there is any error, you check your error here. Then you send in your product, you create your product. If successful, you return your success message, and that is that. So that is for creating. That is why when we submitted this earlier, we had this product created successfully. So now let's go to our form. Let's go to our form and check something. In our form, I have this add product. Then this is the JavaScript. This is the JavaScript that is helping us to get this form and using Axios to send in to communicate with our API. So let's check our JavaScript and see what is happening there. So this is the add product.js file. So this is a normal JavaScript. So document.get element by ID. I pass in the ID of the form, the ID I'm targeting. And in our own case, the ID is this. This is the ID. This is the ID I'm targeting. So in my JavaScript file, all I have to do is pass in this ID. We are using my get element by ID. Then I add my event listener. And what is the event listener I'm adding? I'm using submit event listener. So whenever I hit a submit button, then whenever I hit a submit button, it will target this ID, then do whatever thing I've already written for it to do. Now, this is function. I'm passing my E, that is to prevent my default. When you check, when I submit, the page did not reload. So this particular stuff here, this particular code here helps the page not to reload, right? So this is how you get your value. This is how you get your value from your form. This is how you get your value from your form using your dot value. With this dot value, the dot value help you to get the name, the input, the name of the input. Then that is it, using your dot value. Then we are getting the name, the price, and the description. So this is how you get your value from your field. Remember, we have already gotten this ID. We have access to the form. We have access to this form here. We have access to this form using this ID. So since we have access to this form, so whatever thing we are doing now is directly to that form. So this is where I'm using my Axios. So this is how you communicate with your API. This is how you communicate with your API. Now remember, I made mention of RESTful API request. Now in this place, we are using post, axios.post. This is the main thing now in your front end. Remember, you don't need to do all of this. You don't need this to test your API. But for the fact we are using our view, so we are using JavaScript to do that. So you have to do all of this. Now we are using Axios. So the Axios, remember, I have a CDM already. I have a CDM, which is this CDM. So this will enable me to do whatever I want to do using Axios. So this is axios.post. So this is pointing that we want to do a post request, right? If I should change this thing to get, it means that I'm sending in a get, request. But what we're doing now is post request. So post, then you pass in the endpoint you want to access. Which endpoint do you want to access? In our own case, we are accessing our local host 8000/API/product. Now remember, when accessing your endpoint, if you didn't put this API, it will not work. So you must put API. You must put your API here. If not, it will not work. So if we should remove this API from here and test that our form, it will not work because we need this. So you need this for it to work. So that the brother will understand that what is going, this is an API. I want to access an endpoint. We are not accessing a page, we are accessing an endpoint. So this API/product. Remember, we have API.php. So you need to specify API/product. So the product is the name of the rat. So when you go to API.php, look at it here. I'm using API resources. So all you have to do, this is the name of the product. This name covers the get, post, store, and update. With this, you can do all of that. So going back to our form, going back to our JavaScript file, add JavaScript. So this is the endpoint. So what are we doing? We are sending in a post request. So this is the name. This is a JavaScript object. Remember, this is a JavaScript object. So this is it. So we are sending in all of this. So axios.post, you pass in the endpoint you want to access. This is the endpoint you want to access. Then the data in the form of object, JavaScript object. Then we use our .then. Then inside our .then, we have our function. Inside the function, we have our response. So inside this response, for you to get your response, remember we have this response message. We have this response message in our HTML, in our form, in our HTML page, which is this. This is the ID. This is the ID of the response. This is the ID, which is response message. This is where we are returning all the message, if successful or not successful, or if there is any error. This is where we are displaying the error. That is where we are. That is why we are passing it here. That is why we have this here. So it's a document.getElementById. Which element are we getting? We are getting this response message .inner HTML. So we are passing in the message, data.message. Remember, we are passing in this message. This message is the message in our product controller, which is this data. Are you seeing this data? So we are passing in this message from our product, from our store function, from the product controller in our API. So we are passing in this message to this, right? So this is to console the message in your console. If you want to console it, you can do this to console it in your browser. Then .catch. If there is any error, you catch the error here. If there is any error, you catch the error here. This is the error. This is the parameter. I'm passing it as a parameter. I'm still sending the error to the response message also, which is this. Then the same thing here. That is it. So this is how you access your API endpoint. This is how you access it. This is how the name of the API the endpoint you want to access. You pass in the endpoint. We are using Axios. Say Axios.post. Since it's a post request, you use post. Then you do all of this, your object, the .dem. Then, assuming you're not using Axios, you have to convert all of this to JSON. You have to convert them to JSON. But since we are not using, since we are not writing raw JavaScript, we are using Axios. So Axios will help us to convert it automatically. So some of you might use what is it called now? Fetch API. If you're using Fetch API, you have to convert all of this to JSON first before you can do anything. But Axios automatically does that for you. So that is why you didn't see any conversion from this to JSON before you can now do anything. So this is literally how you access your endpoint. The endpoint we are accessing is this, and we are using post request to do that. So that is why when you submit this form, so this is the form. So if I want to test this form again, please confirm if you can still see my screen. Hello, Antonia, please confirm if you can still see my screen.
I can see your
Yes.
screen.
Yes, good.
Okay. So testing this again. Let's say product two. Let me say 50. Test product two. So okay. Let me remove this and submit. So product two. Let me enter the price, then submit. See, office are required. So because I didn't enter the description, because I've already specified this in my API that all these field must in my validator, I've already specified this rule that all the field must be required. So any field that is not, any field that is empty, this thing will not submit. That is why we're having this, that office are required. So now if I should enter this test product to now product created successfully. So this is how you do your post request in Laravel using RESTful API and Axios. So let's look at how to retrieve this data from your from your server, how to retrieve this data from your server. So how do you do this? All you have to do is same process. In this other place, we have all products. So now we're looking at how to implement get request. How to implement get request. So we want to get all the value, all the data, all the product that we've entered already in our server. How do we get it back? So this is all we'll be looking at now using the get method. So this is our form, our normal regular form, no difference from what we have earlier. The only difference here is in this other place, we have list products.js. We still have our response message. This is our table. This is our table. Then inside our table, there is nothing inside our table, but we'll add this in using our JavaScript. We'll append something here in using our JavaScript. So this is our table. This is your table row, your table head, and all of that. Then this is my Axios I'm using to use Axios to access my API. So this is just my front end for the DSIM to get the data. This is my table. So all I have to do, I'll go back to my product controller. Okay, my client controller. This is the place I'm returning all products. All products. This is the all products I'm returning. So here is your product controller. So to do that, for you to return it, this is my first page, my first function, and it's called index. Index. So the name of the function is index. So I'm using get to retrieve all the data from database, $ product, because I want to access the product control. I want to access the product table. So I have to pass in the model of the table. Remember, when you create your model, it comes with this thing, with the migration, then the migration file is the table that saves in the database. So for you to access that table, you need to access the model, and this is the model. So we are accessing our product model. You pass in the product, then get. You can still use or, you can still use get. It all depends on what you want to achieve. So in this other place, if product sphere count, I'm using count to check if in this table, if the count is greater than 0.
Okay,
Sorry?
your time is fast spent. You want to get the question to our external speaker.
Okay. Let me just round up. So this is it. I'm counting, I'm checking the record in the table. If it's greater than 0, I'm returning the collection. I'm using collection, then passing the data I've returned from this place as a parameter in this other place. I'm using collection. This is the resource I'm passing them. Remember, I said API, we don't return page, rather we return JSON response, right? So we are returning a JSON response, and the status of this, if successful, the status will go to 200. So let's quickly access our front end to see what we have. Okay. So if you check my front end, if you check ID number 10 and ID number 11 are the two record I added last, which is this product 1 and product 2. That is it. So how do I get this? How do I access my front end? Now let's go back to our JavaScript. Let's run quickly, go back to our JavaScript. Now in my JavaScript, I have a list product.js, and which is this? I'm using asios.get. Which endpoint am I accessing? Same endpoint, but in this other endpoint, I'm using get. So if I'm using .then this is the place I'm checking if the response contains a data or not. If it contains a data, I do this. I add this data to my table. This way I'm adding it to my table. This table in my view, all product. In this table, this is where I'm adding it. So this is the table I'm adding it on. This place I'm adding the record. The record retrieved from this place. The record retrieved from this place, I'm adding it here. So that is it. Check if product array has items. So this is just a normal JavaScript file. This is just it. Then if there is any error, you catch the error here. So that is how you do your post and your get. Remember, the most important thing is you specify the kind of request you are sending. Is it post? Is it get? If it's post, you do this. If it's get, you do this. If it's post, you pass in post and you do other things. So I think I'll be stopping here. While I welcome Victor to continue from where I stop. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Ogechi. That was a wonderful presentation. Even though we still have a lot to cover, but if you have any questions, please let's note them down after the two speakers are done. After the second speaker is done, we'll join our questions. But right now, let me bring on board Mr. Victor. Oh, Ira, you want to say something? Okay, you're clapping. Thank you so much. Mr. Victor, please, you can have the floor.
Okay. Good evening, Ma. Good evening, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. Wow, thank you, Mr. Oguchi, for that powerful presentation. It was quite insightful. You see again and again. So I'm trying to join now my PC to present my screen. Then I will start. But before then, I will still have to go through the theory again, just to learn what the theory of APIs. So, please, can we all hear me?
Your
Yes, I can hear you,
voice,
sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
can you?
So basically, I think this is a tech community and it's an evolving landscape where everybody's moving away from PHP to JavaScript, Node.js, and Python using Django and Flask. And you ask the guy, bro, which type do you do? Like, oh, Python. That's what of you? I'm a PHP guy. Say, why that is archaic? It's old school. But I know me personally, like I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and that was simply like PHP is old school. Why is he using PHP and everything? But actually, it's not also true. With Laravel framework, it has actually made writing code to web applications to PHP much more enjoyable. And I think we can all attest to that. Not my own school of thought. Am I? Hello.
yes, sir.
Hello, can we hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to actually present my screen this on a minute. So basically, we know PHP, we know APIs, as Mr. Ogicha has rightly said, you the APIs with Laravel, and then we've seen how you actually evolved over time. So before now, you write vanilla PHP from scratch. You have to handle authentication, handle tokenization, and everything. But PHP, so with Laravel comes in to actually abstract that a lot away from the developer and gives the developer an opportunity where he can only focus with the business logic of it, writing the code, not thinking of how to handle authentication, routing, and everything. And that's one of the features of using Laravel and other frameworks like Laravel too, according to the title of our presentation this evening. Now, sorry, I can't join from an external link. I'm trying to join the link on my PC, but it's not letting me in. Would I have to close here first? Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes,
I
I can hear
think
you.
your voice is breaking. We can't get you clearly.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is it better now? Hello, is it
Yes,
better
sir.
now?
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to join from my PC, but it's not allowing me to join. Must I log out here first?
So that shouldn't affect it.
Okay. I think
Try
I'll
sign.
join it now. I'll join now. Okay, thank you. I thank you for the delay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm in now. Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir, we can't hear you. Or is it just me? Can anybody hear you?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, just
Can you hear me, please?
yes.
I'm so sorry. I was talking to myself. So, like I was saying, that API stands for Application Programming Interface, and it serves like a bridge for in which developers and softwares can actually communicate. I was like, we've used API one way or the other as developers. Maybe you're building a payment gateway and you need to implement something like Paystack payment platform or Stripe. You consume their API, or maybe you're using Google Map on your website. Yes, so use the Google Map API for your website. One way or the other, you must have consumed what your API. So basically, this is how an API works. You have a client, you have you have an API that is like on a business logic of your program. Then you have an API server. So the client sends a request to the API. The API goes to the API server and picks the request. Then it gives back a response. So you see that this is like Mr. Oguchi was giving us earlier on, telling us earlier on. This is like a person that came into the restaurant to order for food. The next person you have here is like a waiter that is like that's not like the API. The API is like the waiter. It comes to the client. The person comes to your website or your web application and gets the request. He now goes to the kitchen to meet the chef. That this is what has been ordered by the client. Please, and can you give me this? Which is what our server. So we can use any kind of server for that response. So types of APIs actually. So basically we have basically three, but some people say four. But the three I would consider are the private APIs, public APIs, and partner APIs. So private API is what we use within an organization. Yes, just within an organization, you use the private API. Then for public APIs, you also use it like Google Maps is an example of a public API. Google then Paystack or Stripe's payment gateway, the example of public APIs. You can access them for free and probably for services. Can you please, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay. They have what we call partner APIs also. So two companies may want to partner together to build a software, or they're collaborating on some certain projects. Then they have what we call partner APIs. It is not available to the public domain. It's just for the two of them. Now, a social media application may have a private API that handles only the login workflow. Only the login workflow. That's a private API. Nobody else can access that, and so on and so forth. Please, I'll just be rushing for sake of time. What you need to understand what we call APIs, protocols, and architectures. Yes. So like when Mr. Ogichi was talking about, he talked about REST APIs and all. Now there are this is an API protocol, or you can call it an API architecture, because these are ways in which communications are being handled on the web or by APIs. So basically, we have things like REST, we have SOAP, we have GraphQL and gRPC. Now, REST is actually representation state transfer, and it's the most common used HPI protocol we have, because you use things like HTTP methods like get, post, put, delete, and patch, which Mr. Ogichi has actually demonstrated for us to see. So you have to send a get request to get a response. To post, you need to send in a request instead. You're not giving out information. To put, you want to probably update a database. Then to delete, you want to delete from a database. Then the other one, which is quite common again, is also the SOAP. It's called Simple Object Based, so Object Access Protocol. it's an older protocol anyway, but most guys still use it. Then one of the most powerful ones in which I think is very common is a GraphQL, the query base, which allows clients to request what they needed, not more than what you need and not less than what you need, just what you need. Communicate that using GraphQL. They have what we call the gRPC, which is yes, it's actually called remote precision call, but because it's been developed by Google, it's now called gRPC. It's not so common, but most companies use it for microservices between two modern cloud-based environments. So now, how API works, like you saw in the diagram before, in API you have an API client, the person making the request, coming to start a conversation, like I said here. Then the request that is being sent, what is the person demanding? So for the API client, it starts the conversation and it makes the request to the API server. Then the API request will look and behave depending on the type of API. If it's a get, if it's a put, if it's a post, or if it's a delete. And it uses what we call there are some components that are attached to all API requests, which are endpoints, methods, parameters, request headers, and request bodies. So this I will look at it briefly before in a short while. Then I have what we call the API server. The API server actually picks, sends, receives the request sent from the API client, and then authenticates it, validates it, and then gives out an output. Yes. Then finally, that which is what the API response is. So once the API server authenticates, validates, and then gives out, manipulates the data, it sends what we call an API response back to the person that has actually sent in that request. So this is just a typical example of how API requests work. So you have your clients here, as you can see, clients. It's either a person is registering or is logging in. It sends to the backend. The backend sends a request to a database. HighGraph is just like a headless CMS. We will not talk about HighGraph, but it's just a headless CMS system used to manage and deliver content across multiple platforms, and it provides APIs. I think use GraphQL basically for its API implementation and all. So, but the end here is that you see a client sending in a request to the backend. The backend now sends it to the HighGraph, and then the response is being sent back. So this is the physical workflow of how an API actually behaves. So the API's request actually have, like I said, 5 major components. You have an endpoint, an API endpoint, which Mr. Okechi actually highlighted. The endpoint where you are picking that resource. So it's a specific URL for that resource you are accessing. The method, is it a get method, a post method, a put, or a delete method? The parameters you're passing. Yes, you need to pass probably ID and all. So the parameters you're passing. Then you can need to also provide extra details such as the request content type, authentication credentials layers if you are using tokens. Yes, so that's what is passed in the request headers. Then the request body, so that's what you're actually passing the data you either want to update or delete. Maybe you're updating your database. The request body you have what you're passing into. So these 5 points actually make up an API request component. I don't know if you're following me. Are you still here? Hello, can anybody hear me, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Then how what we call the API response also has its own components, yes, which are the common responses you get, yes. So it can be 200 code, which is for OK, or a 201, which is created a new resource, or a 404, which is not. I didn't see this error. There's an error. I cannot find this page. I can't find this URL you are sending me to. Yeah, those are the response code. Then sorry, the status code. Then the response header also is very similar to the request headers, but just that it gives you additional information about the servers. Yes, the server you're making requests from. Then the response body is where your content, what you actually requested for, is being sent back to you. Then we have what we call authentication authorization in APIs. Yes, most times you don't APIs needs to be secure because anybody can just come to the web and send in requests to your database, and then will just be consuming resources and consuming wasting resources for you. So most times you want to actually authenticate and then authorize. If not, people will just be for security, of course, just for security. So you can either use OAuth2, which is one of the common web APIs, API authentication techniques, or use API keys, or you can use JSON Web Tokens. Yes, you can actually use JSON Web Tokens, or even rate limiting and throttling. So these are some of the key authentication tools that are out there actually. Then we have what we call API rate limiting and quotas. Rate limiting prevents abuse of APIs. So you don't want people to make too much requests to your API. Use what we call rate limiting. Then quotas actually send a threshold on the data usage or the number of API calls that is allowed per account for each request you're making. So these are just the various error response codes and the error handling techniques you can have. 200 means it's a success, 400 means it's a bad request, 401 means it's an unauthorized request, 44 means you can't find the resources you're looking for. Then 500 means it's an internal server error. Maybe you didn't configure your server very well, or your code is not well configured to use some certain techniques. Then it shows us a internal server error. Then you can also send an error message as you get using error techniques to actually send error message and to give users the feedback on why you're having an error in your code. So basically, this is also a brief touchdown overview of what APIs is in API itself is, whether you're implementing it in JavaScript or implementing it in Laravel, PHP, or any web app at all. This is just a brief overview of what API is. So I don't know if there is any question, yeah, before we go to the live demo. Hello, please, is there any question or before we move to the live demo just to show us how to implement an API in Laravel? Hello, can we hear me, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we
Any
can.
question?
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Can you hear us? Hello, sir.
Hello, sir, can you hear us?
Hello, sir. Can you hear us?
Sorry, my network ceased. I can hear you now. Okay. Sorry for that. My network actually went off, but I can hear you now. Okay, so let's quickly move into API presentation in Laravel, since if there's no question. So basically, I will present my screen now. Share screen.
No, sir, we can't hear you, sir. I guess it's the network. We can't hear you, sir. I'm not sure if you can hear us either. Hello, sir.